Hello everybody, it's Kylie with you all again today for another fun Let's Create video. I thought today I'd create a layout using a scrapbooking sketch, but before I share with you what sketch I'm going to work with, I thought I'd share with you the paper collection that I thought I would use. I have in front of me here the Bedazzled paper collection. As you can see, there are 4 different packs. We have a laser paper pack, an accent designer paper pack with stars. We've got an accent designer paper pack that's geometric and one that's with hearts. And they all feature some foiled papers, which are really lovely. Now, the Bedazzled collection is currently available as a bundle in the December deals, which are happening on the Creative Memories website, and it will be available until the 21st of December. So if you don't have this paper pack, I would highly recommend getting it in the next week, because at the time of filming this video, it was still available, but we all know how quickly some Creative Memories products sell out. I really love this Bedazzled laser paper pack. I'm not going to be working with it today, but I'll just pull one of the papers out for you. And you can see they just all have various shapes cut out. This one has hearts, and they're also dual-sided, so you can use either side depending on what color theme that you would like. I think these would be really cool for putting together some decorative pages. But I'm not going to be working with the laser cut papers today. I'm just going to stick with my designer papers, and I'll share with you the sketch that I've picked out. Now, this sketch was part of the December virtual crop that was hosted by Creative Memories. If you're unsure what that is, once a month Creative Memories host a virtual crop where they give us a series of sketches to create and upload to the Creative Memories virtual crop Facebook group, and you have a chance to win some wonderful prizes. I'll link the Facebook group below this video, so if you want to check it out, you can. But this was sketch number 1 in the December virtual crop, and I just think it lends itself beautifully for creating a really pretty page. It is a single page sketch, but there's nothing stopping you from turning this into a double page. As I've mentioned before, sketches don't necessarily come with measurements, so a lot of it is guessing, but you can create the sketch exactly as it is, or you can just use it as a launching pad and a place to start for changing things around to suit yourself. I was really interested though in these diagonal little corner strips. They to me just look like a really thin corner border strip, but I'm actually going to change my corners around a little bit and have a solid triangle in each corner, but the rest of it I'm going to keep it fairly similar. So we'll get started. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is select some papers that you're going to work with. I actually had to do this off camera because it took me so long to choose papers. They're all so beautiful. But I'm using the Bedazzled Hearts and the geometric paper packs. And I've just selected, I don't know, there's 5 papers there. I may need more, I may use less. But I'll bring that up to the camera so you can see on this particular paper. Can you see the foiling on those little gold hearts? It's really a beautiful paper pack. And I love this one here as well. There's more foiling on this paper as well. All right, so I'm going to work with this light blue paper that has the heart print for my background page. The first thing I'm going to look at is my 2 photos. Now, I've got my photo templates here. I just cut photo sizes from white cardstock and use my label maker. So these are 6x4, and this just helps me position things before I go cutting into my papers and whatnot. So I've got 2 6x4 photos here, which I think would work nicely. The orientation from the sketch is, of course, vertical. I think you could still, you know, have your photos horizontally for this sketch, but I think I will keep mine the same as the sketch and have them vertical. And I kind of look a little bit shorter though than a 6x4, so I'm actually even thinking these might be like a 5x4 photo, so it's been trimmed down just that little bit. I may do the same for mine, and then we can see we've got some little layered pieces of paper in behind these photos, so I think that's what I'm going to work with first in cutting these different squares that go behind my photos. And this is, again, because we haven't got any measurements on our sketch, this is all going to be a little bit of guesswork. But I think for this first square here behind this photo, I think I'm going to trim that to around 6 by 6. So I'll line that up in my trimmer. And just with my straight blade, we're using that to trim it down to our 6 by 6 square. Like so. Now we've got another square here to the side in behind the photo, and it obviously looks smaller than what this first square is that we've cut. So let's cut this one down to 5 by 5. And I think I'll use this beautiful chevron print. Like so. Okay, if I bring back in my background paper, we can start to see how that's going to look with the measurements that we've just cut there. Following our sketch, so we've got our hearts here to the side, and then our chevron goes, it's right up against the edge actually, only a bit higher perhaps. Again, it doesn't have to be identical to the sketch, just fairly close. And then we've got a third little section just down the bottom here. All right, so I've selected another navy paper. Now I know we've got this one here with the gold hearts. This one is just plain and has a very faint diagonal to it. So if we've got 6 by 6, 5 by 5, let's cut a 4 by 4 square to go in beneath our chevron square. So I'll just line that up. And we've got our 4 by 4, which we can sit up underneath. Now, the other thing that features on this sketch, you can see here we've got a diagonal line that comes from each opposite corner on the bottom left to the top right. Now, in theory, because we can see in behind it, it tells us that this is actually just a very thin strip of paper. So it would be great to use one of your decorative border punches or whatever you like to create this strip. You could keep it plain, or you could have a border sticker. I'm actually going to treat mine a little bit differently in that I'm going to actually cut some solid triangles and actually cover over both diagonal corners. So instead of having the strip, I'm going to have a solid triangle. And that's the beauty of sketches. You can interpret it how you like. Let's say we cut a 3" by 3" square from our gold heart foiled paper. Oh, it almost pains me to cut into that. I love the gold foiling. I could easily hoard this paper pack. Now, because this is a directional print, we want to make sure that we're going to cut this square on the correct diagonal to fit each corner. And because we want one to go down the bottom here and another up the top, it tells me that I need to cut it from the top left-hand corner down to the bottom right. So let's try that. Like so. And that gives us our 2 triangle pieces. Now I think I'd actually like to enhance those a little bit by adding a little bit of colour. So I'm going to bring in this burgundy paper that I'd had out before. I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger. Let's cut a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. Again, these measurements, they're all just guesswork. And I'm going to cut this again on the same diagonal. So the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. So these triangles are just that little bit bigger than our blue. I'm happy with those. So let's adhere those into place. So just center that navy blue triangle with the foiling over the burgundy. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to keep it about 1/8 of an inch from the corner. So you could align that directly to the edge of the corner, but I think I'm going to actually sit mine away a little. Okay, so that has the basis for our background now into place, and I really want to talk photos with you. Now for contrast, I'm actually going to use some bronze shimmer cardstock to cut my photo mats. I think this colour complements the bedazzled collection really well. And if I'm going to have two 5-inch by 4-inch photos, I'm going to cut my photo mats to be 5.25 by 4.25, and that's just going to allow for a nice little neat border around our photos. Okay, so once you've got your photo mats cut, I'm just going to use my multi-purpose tool there to lift that corner. You can position them how you like. I'm going to follow what's been done on my sketch. You can sort of see the position of them. They're up sort of towards that top right hand corner of the page, so I've just done the exact same thing. So we can stick our photos to these photo mats. Now I haven't got photos printed, so I'm just going to add some white cardstock, but your photo sizes will be 5-inch by 4-inch. All right, so that really has the basic foundation for our sketch, following what's been done. And the only difference I've changed is, of course, I've added my triangular pieces to the corners. You can see here on the sketch it's got some fun little floral elements here that you can add to your page, and I am going to create some little flowers because if you know me, you know how much I love to make paper flowers. So I'm going to make some paper flowers, and then I've also got, just so that I've got a title, I'm just going to bring in some of my laser cut titles from my stash and add a title and perhaps some journaling. So we can set this aside for now. And I've brought back the burgundy paper that we used for our little corner triangles. And I have my medium circle cutting template and my red blade. And I'm basically just cutting a heap of circles from that inside track. I'm going to make some cute little flowers for my page, and they take 2 circles per flower. So depending on how many flowers you want will judge by how many circles you need to cut. I've actually shared instructions for this type of flower before. They were on the Creative Memories blog for Anzac Day, which was in April. I will link that blog post below this video so you can check out the written instructions for them as well. But basically, depending on how many flowers you want for your layout, just keep cutting some circles. I never know how many flowers I'm going to use until I get going, so I might cut enough for 5. So I love paper flowers. There we go. I've got enough circles if I wish to create 5 flowers. So we can lift that out of the way. And if I don't use all of the flowers, then I can put them on a card or something else. It's not going to matter. All right, so once you've cut as many circles as you think you'll need to create your flowers, remember that 2 circles make 1 flower. So it just depends how many flowers you want on your page. I like to go over the top, and I will always have lots, but if you don't want to use too much of your papers, just create 1 or 2, just whatever you're comfortable with creating. But you're going to need your two-way corner punch, and you're going to need some of the small foam squares. And to begin with, we're just going to take one circle and we're going to fold it in half, like so. I'm going to run this straight edge along the straight arm of my punch, and I'm going to insert the circle half as far as it will go and punch. And you can see what it does. It just rounds off this pointy tip here of the circle half. So when you've done that first side, we can turn it over and just the exact same thing. Insert it into your punch as far as it will go and just take that corner off. And that's the shape, when you fold it back out, that's the shape you're left with. From here, we're going to fold it in half in the opposite direction. So let's line up those two rounded ends together and just repeat the process. So insert it as far as it'll go and punch, flip it over and do the exact same thing. And this will be the shape that you're left with. Now the beauty of these flowers is they all turn out different. Sometimes you'll have little straighter points on the tips of your flowers, or they'll look a little different in shape. That's what I love about them. They're like a little shabby bloom, as I like to call them. But that's how it will look once you've punched all of those around. And you need to do this to all of your circles to be able to create your flowers. So just keep repeating that step on all of your circles. Do remember to keep emptying the back of your punch though. All right, so I've got all of my circles punched, and you can see they're not all identical and perfect, and I'm okay with that because I think it suits this style of flower. But basically you need to take two, and I've got my repositional tape here. Just going to add a little bit to the center of one, and when I layer the second one over the top, I'm going to change the direction of my petals. So you can see here the direction that they sit on my cutting mat. Well, I'm going to rotate that top so that those petals sit in between that first layer that we added. And you can curl them up a little bit if you like, but it doesn't really matter. They will flatten down a little bit once they go into your album. It would be really cool too. You could make these flowers a different paper for the bottom to what the top is. You can mix and match these how you like. But that's basically what you want to go through and do, is just layer all of these together. Just lining up the opposite circle halves there. Okay, so I've got all of those layered together, and at the moment they really don't look like flowers. But once we add a few little finishing touches to those and to your page, you will just see them come to life. Now I've got some more of my bronze shimmer cardstock here. This is the same cardstock that I use to mat my photos. And I've got my smallest circle cutting template and my blue blade. And I'm just going to cut some circles from the inside track. And these little circles are going to be the center of each flower. So I've got 5 flowers there ready. So let's cut 5. So these little gold circles are going to be used for the center of our paper flowers. And to do so, I'm just bringing in my little precision scissors, my little fine tip scissors. And I'm going to take each circle and just carefully fringe cut all the way around. And again, it doesn't have to be neat and perfect. It's just to add that little bit of texture to the center of your flower. Don't panic if you accidentally remove one of the little pieces that you've cut from your flower center. I actually like to go in like so and actually cut little pieces out. I know I've demonstrated that quite a few times, but I think it just adds a little bit of character to that piece. And then using these small foam squares, I'm just going to add one to the back and then stick it to the center of my flower like so. As you can see, this brings it to life as a little paper bloom. So I'll continue doing that for all of my flowers. All right, with all of my flowers together, and they're what I like to call perfectly imperfect, it's time to talk leaves. Now I have my spring leaf punch here, and at the time of filming today, this punch is reduced on sale and part of the December deals. So if you haven't purchased this punch, now would be a good time that you can save a little bit. I love it. I use this all year round. It's one of my most favorite punches. And I'm going to bring in some cardstock that I had in my stash. This is called lichen. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a cardstock that I purchased, I think, in one of the bundles that comes out every now and then. I always encourage people, you know, when different cardstock colors are brought out for promotions, do take advantage of them, because it really does stretch your supply and it gives you a lot of color options. And I really like this color. I think it's going to suit my layout perfectly. And I'm just going to take my spring leaf punch and punch some leaves. Very simple. You also get the center that punches away, and I've seen some really cool things done with this little guy as well. But that is the leaf that you're left with. It looks great in that color. I think it's going to be perfect for our layout. So I'm just punching a heap from my paper. I'm not sure just how many leaves I'm going to need. I'll just punch a few, and whatever I don't use, I can use on another project. You're always better off to punch less than what you need, because you can always go back and punch more. Saves you wasting your paper. I know I'm going to use quite a few because that's what I do. More is more. Okay. I'll keep all my little spriggy bits because I think they could come in handy. And we can bring our layout back in. Okay, so you can sort of see by the sketch that they're just sort of scattered randomly around the design. I'm probably going to format mine a little bit more than what's on the sketch. So I'm kind of thinking that we need a couple here at the base, and then I can add a title in here and some journaling. Perhaps we need another couple over here and one more there, because I'm thinking visual triangle. It's always good to have that visual triangle when you're embellishing a layout. Helps you get a really great balance for your work. And then if I bring in my leaves, we can sort of fill in any little spaces there. Some more up here. Maybe another one there. Like so. Now, do we need our little spriggy pieces as well, or is that just going to overdo it? Oh no, we need those as well. So these are the center of that leaf punch. It just adds another texture to your page. We're not wasting anything. Certainly not wasting anything. Now, I do tend to hoard all of my little laser titles. I always like to buy plenty of them. Some of these aren't available anymore. I think there's only one packet of must-have titles on the Creative Memories website at the moment. But because I've got this darker navy paper, I think I want to use a white toned title. And because I haven't got my photos just yet, and I don't know what the theme of my page is going to be, I'm just going to use a fairly generic title. Like, I could use family. I could use, I've got here laughter. Or I could go family traditions, but then that's probably a little more specific. Oh, I've got best day ever. Or maybe we go that one. And I could sit that little banner. That's perfect. I really like that. So I've got best day ever. All right, so I have everything stuck down. I'm pretty happy with the overall balance. I just want to add a few little bits and pieces to finish off my design. Now I've got the gold script ABC123 stickers here. These are part of the brand new silver and gold collection. How amazing are those? But I thought I could add, I might actually use the uppercase stickers, and I'm just going to add a little XO next to my title here for that space there, next to best day ever. And then I've gone ahead from white cardstock and just trimmed some little journaling strips, which I'm going to add to the side over here. I'm just going to trim them down a little bit. And as you know, if you've seen from some of my past layouts, I like the aesthetic of adding my journaling to some paper strips. Sometimes I'll type my journaling as well. So I'm going to add this to the side here. Now, because the white is sort of getting a little bit lost on our background paper, I'm going to add a little bit of ink just to the edges of those. You don't have to do this, of course. I think I'm going to use, I've just got some Distress ink, Faded Jeans. I think that's going to work really well with the overall colour of this. You could use a journaling pen just to run the thicker edge of the journaling pen along the edge of your little paper strips. A lot of people ask me if I think that will damage the nib of their journaling pen. I think, you know, a one-off would be okay, but yeah, I do think it does put a little ridge in your journaling pen. That may not bother you, but I just like to use a bit of ink with a little dabber. And by just adding that tiny little bit of colour to the edges of my journaling strip, it's just going to help that stand out from my background like so. You can see it just adds that little bit of colour. Okay, so with all of those inked up along those edges, I can stick them into place to add my journaling to. And that completes my layout for today. I'm really happy with how all my little blooms have turned out. And if I take a look back to the sketch that we started with, you can see that it's still quite similar to my completed design. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how it's all come together, and perhaps you'll give these little flowers a try for yourselves. Don't forget, if you're in Australia and you're interested in any of the Creative Memories products or the tools you've seen me working with, I'm going to link everything below so that you can check them out for yourselves. But for now, take care, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.